So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Roswell in the 21st century is a detailed re-examination of the Roswell UFO crash case. I have studied the evidence for more than 30 years, and I now put that evidence under a microscope in a cold case examination of the facts. These facts might not please everyone. They are based on my comprehensive investigation that took years to complete, but they do lead to the conclusion that whatever fell was not built on Earth. The best of Project Blue Book is based on the 22-year-long investigation conducted by the Air Force. But the book goes far beyond that, bringing in evidence that was uncovered long after Project Blue Book was ordered terminated. Using facts that were unavailable to the Air Force investigators, I was able to prove that the Air Force manipulated the data and drew unrealistic conclusions about the UFO sightings reported to them. My different perspective shows there was more to Project Blue Book than even the Air Force knew. Both books are available at Amazon.com.
Join Patty Conklin and Healing Within Radio each week. More than entertainment, Healing Within offers educational, useful tools for everyday life. Listen for help overcoming fear, anxiety, and depression. Patty knows about eliminating cancer, MS, dementia, Parkinson's, and a host of illnesses that we face every day. Life can be good. Life is good. All you need are simple tools to start changing your life. Start right now by visiting pattyconklin.com, PATTICONKLIN. No matter where you are in the world, you can work with Patty through Skype, phone, or in person, visiting one of her retreats in Georgia. Visit pattyconklin.com today or call our offices at 404-474-0086. That's pattyconklin.com or call 404-474-0086.
The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
This is the X Zone, and I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to find out more about the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net, where you can look at all the different programming schedules that we have available for you 24/7, 365 with our compliments. And once again, that's xzbn.net. For more information about the X Zone TV channel, specifically and exclusive to Simul TV, www.simultv.com. We're going to be talking about near-death experiences this hour here in the X-Zone. It's a topic that many people are talking about. It's very interesting, but it's a topic that is a matter of great debate still between the New Age community, those who have actually had the near-death experiences, and the scientific and medical community. Mind you, there are those doctors and scientists now who are taking a very serious look at the near-death phenomenon. Joining me this hour to talk about her books, the movie that she produced and directed, and much more is Lura Ketchledge. And Lura, welcome back to the X-Zone. Always great talking to you.
Hi, Rob. Thanks for having me on the show.
Lura, for those listeners who may not have had the opportunity of listening to the last time you were with us, tell us about your near-death experience.
Well, this was back in 1979 in a beautiful rural Virginia day. There wasn't the Internet. There wasn't talk about near-death experience. So I didn't know what I was getting into that morning. I went horseback riding. The horse took off with me, Rob, and I never hit the ground. I left my body in midair before I careened down like a gully or ditch filled with rocks head first. But I left my physical body before I hit the ground, mercifully, and I had a near-death experience, and it was the greatest shock of my life, and my values, my core values shifted instantaneously.
What was it like being dead, knowing you were dead? How did you feel? What was your emotional state? What were you thinking about at that time?
You know, I was a kid. I was a 19-year-old girl, and I just started to live. I had an apartment, a job. I thought an exciting life. And when I had this accident, it was so abrupt, and it was such a shock. I didn't handle it well, like other people say, going towards the light, they have this euphoria. I was kind of kicking and screaming and complaining about the whole thing because it was so dramatic when I had a life review, when I shifted out of into the non-physical reality.
What kind of life review did you have?
Well, some of the things I've really never spoken about because it's too personal and painful.
Okay.
But I can express it another way. You know, the little mistakes you have in life, like, you know, you might be rude to a neighbor or, you know, or talk back to your mother. When you have a life review, it's like a big panoramic, this is your life. And you experience the hurt that you dish out like you're the other person. So basically you get the bill for your good deeds and your bad deeds, but without judgment. But it was so radical for me because I was brought up a minister's granddaughter and not a huge believer, but, you know, it was kind of like I thought it was true. And I did not have a religious epiphany while dead. So that was my second biggest shock.
Do you think that your near-death experience was part of a predestined plan?
I have a feeling it could be, because when I returned after my near-death experience, I came back with a skill set that I hadn't signed up for. But I don't know. I mean, the fact that I when I was resuscitated, that I didn't have permanent brain damage or a spinal injury, or, you know, I was really hurt. I had a broken nose and hand, and I was purple from head to toe, but I never should have survived that. So I believe that there was some help. I'd like to think there was.
How did your near-death experience change your life and your core values?
Well, there was a real shift within myself. When I went when I was rushed to the hospital, I tried to talk to the doctor, and he looked at me, and all his sympathy just drained out of his face. And he was angry at me and folded his arms and asked me what drugs I'd been taking. So he shamed me in the hospital in front of the nurses and the other doctor, and my mom was there because she happened to work at the hospital, so it was pretty awful. And then because it happened, I didn't know what to do. I took 12 hours to calm down, and then I took myself to a therapist because I thought, you know, somebody could explain it to me, and if I told my parents, I'd worry them. And she asked me if I was having a pity party over my injuries. So So I really couldn't talk about it, but I couldn't get it out of my mind either.
Your mother asked you if you were having a pity party?
No, the therapist I went
the therapist.
to. My mother was quite concerned. She couldn't believe I got clobbered so bad.
Do you fear death now?
No, I'm not worried about it at all. What I do fear, Rob, is this. I'd like to accomplish some more things while alive. I'd like to get a better handle on what happens when you die, because it's the next step in our progression of continuation of existence. I'd like to get some answers before I go. But I mean, it's just a transition. I don't have that fear anymore.
Does your near-death experience fall in line with the near-death experiences of others, or do you believe that each near-death experience is a totally unique event?
I think that's a really good question. Mine, I went down a dark tunnel. I had a life review, and I had a conversation with my grandfather, among other things, but I was shown a great deal. I don't know. It has to depend on how long you are dead and how much you're able to grasp what has happened to you. I think some people can't face a near-death experience that well.
How long were you clinically dead for?
I have no idea. I just know the two riders behind me got off their horses, rescued me. They got me on a flat surface and somehow resuscitated me. And I'm ashamed to say that I felt quite irritated at them for bringing me back, because where I was so lovely and I didn't want to return. And I just looked at them and I thought to myself, this is not reality. So I was pretty disconnected for about 12 hours after I was resuscitated. But I don't even know these fellows' names that I'm so grateful for.
So you were not resuscitated in the hospital. You were resuscitated at the scene.
Yes.
Got you.
Yeah.
How has this event, you were a young lady of 19, looking back to that time where you had the near-death experience, how do you
I'm sorry, what?
How do you believe that this event changed your life?
Oh, it had a core shift in my values. And if it only did me this one thing, I was able to see my grandfather when I was 25, and I had a complete conversation with him. You can call it a ghostly encounter or a visitation. And I was able to take that experience and share it with my grandmother, his wife, as she was dying, and it gave her great comfort. So if I only came back to do that, accomplish that one thing, it was worth it all.
What message do you give to people who ask you about a near-death experience? What is your, what do you say to them when somebody says, what is a near-death experience? How do you explain it?
Well, I can only share, Rob, what happened to me. I just realized, that there was a continuation of existence after physical death, that you go into a perfect second body, a replica of who you were at your youngest, most vital time in life, and that not to be so afraid. I talked to some friends that have cancer and things like that, and I said, the one thing you could really do is let go of the fear and just have a little faith that God has a plan. I don't mean to be preachy, but that's usually what I say to folks.
All right, stand by. We've got to take our first break. X-Zone Nation, Lura Ketchledge is our special guest. Her website is www.near-deathtv.com. That's near-deathtv.com. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Are you looking for psychic services that empower as well as provide accurate information? Jenny is a third-generation psychic with extensive esoteric training. A practicing professional intuitive for over 30 years, her accuracy is astounding. While most psychics can read what will happen to you if you don't change directions, Jenny understands the future is subjective. While there is a river of time we all traverse, that river has many waves, eddies, currents, and tributaries from which to choose. With Jenny as your guide, you can explore the many possible outcomes in the river of time and navigate your course to the one of your liking. Take control of your future. Book your life-changing session with Jenny today at www.gen-e.net. That's www.gen-e.net.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Exonation Lura Ketchledge is our guest this hour, www.luraketch.com. Lura, when it comes to paranormal teams, like I said, I've met many of them over the years, and to be honest with you, they strike me as... Do you remember in the olden days when everybody put a CB in their car and they would all go around talking to each other on a CB, even if they were in the parking lot?
I know. I remember that in high school, yes.
That's what paranormal investigators are to me, because they are not investigators. They are hobbyists. They take a little bit of information and they think that they know everything. They don't know how to preserve evidence, how to collect evidence. And it just...
Well, the teams that came to my house seemed very, very nice and very honest.
Oh, I'm not saying that they're not nice. I'm just saying that they don't know what the hell they're doing. That's my opinion, based on what I've seen over the years.
Okay.
I think that in some respects there are those who do serve a purpose. But when it comes to the TV shows, when it comes to the DVDs that are accessible, when it comes to the stuff on their websites, man, it leaves a lot to be desired. And I know that there's an element of today's society that is drawn to this. I often ask people, if the internet had not been invented, would the events when it comes to paranormal, the stories, the websites, the videos, the TV shows, would they be as prevalent as they are today? I've seen a lot of this video that people claim to be honest. I've been in this business many years. It's easy for us to take a video footage and just unlayer it. And I would say that 97 to 98% of all videos that we have seen that have been submitted to us by people who want to have their videos on our TV channel, we say no. Because, and they'll say, why? It's great footage. And I'll say, yeah, it's been doctored. I can tell CGI a mile off. I can tell the effects a mile off. And you want me to put this on my channel? No, if Travel Channel wants it, they can have it. If Discovery Channel wants it, they can have it. So why is this necessary when it comes to trying to take stories or take the events of people like yourself, who I believe, and yet there are so many events that are portrayed that are so bogus, and yet they claim it to be real. Is it fair to the people who are just getting into this or who are looking for direction that there is so much deceit going on in this industry? And it's an industry. It's a business. It's a billion-dollar industry. Paranormal tourism is one of the hottest commodities prior to COVID. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens after COVID-19 when it comes to all these paranormal investigators. There's so many parts of this formula that leave a lot to be desired.
Oh, I think you get with anything that's subjective. Yeah, I agree with you. But the reason I had the investigators come to my house is because I didn't know how to run cameras or anything. And I was just curious if some of the stuff that was happening in my home could be documented. And then after they gave me the videos, they said, well, you should submit it. And I said, well, oh, gosh, what the heck, why not? Could be fun. And it was just very interesting. You see, Rob, I'm always trying to learn more. I'm the type of person, if I died and there was a room that said heaven, and then there was another room that said lecture on heaven, I'd go to the lecture on heaven first. So I'm always the curious one who's trying to figure it out.
I admire that. I truly admire that. But you see, my experience has been is that you are the exception, not the rule. A very welcomed exception, I might add.
You're really kind.
No, I'm being perfectly honest here.
Even if I had magical gifts, psychic gifts, I would never charge a buck to, talk to a bereaved family or any of that, or even if I had the abilities, which I don't. I just don't need that commercialization. If people want to read my books, learn a little bit, or listen to my podcast, great. That's as far as I'm ever going to take it.
And, like I said, that's commendable. It truly is.
You're very kind.
When we look at the New Age community, you've got near-death experiences, you have out-of-body experience, you have astral travel, you have psychic phenomenon, you've got, channeling, you've got mediums, you have tarot cards, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And you see, I'm coming from a place where doing this show for 30 years and seeing no proof whatsoever, nothing changing in this entire scenario except for the fact that it's been commercialized. That's the only change. People are making money on the beliefs, the wants, the desires, the emotions, and the grief of people now under the auspices of the paranormal.
Yeah, I understand. There's that element, and why do you think I didn't talk about it for 30 years?
Because you're honest.
One of the reasons.
Because you're honest. You're a good person.
I try to be.
You succeed.
My grandmother always said, if it's too good to be true, then it's not. So, you have to go into, if you want to learn more about near-death experience or paranormal, go in with a healthy dose of skepticism and a little bit of Murphy's Law. And I think you can navigate and find some interesting stuff and discard the stuff that just really isn't in your best interest.
Let me give you this example before we go to our final break. About 20 years ago, I was invited to go on a tour of haunted Fort George in Niagara-on-the-Lake, about 20 minutes from here where we are right now. So I went there, I met the tour director, and we went on this tour. There were about 40 people. And he said, and that's where the place where the fiddles can be heard. And within seconds, somebody said, "Oh, I hear the fiddles." All of a sudden, everybody else is hearing fiddles. And I'm saying, "What? Where? Who? I don't hear anything." And this went on throughout the entire tour. I get back to the studio. I was at 610 CKTB back then, and I was going to go on air. And I did some fast research on Fort George, just to find out that the Fort George we were in was not the original Fort George, where all the events that were supposed to have happened and that people were hearing and experiencing, if anything, were about 700, 800, and 1,000 feet away from where we were.
Oh, my goodness.
The same thing has happened when we've gone into graveyards with people. It's come to the point where we don't do that anymore. Because why? It's all put on. It's all show. It's all feeding the wants, the desires of the people who are there. And God bless them. If they want to believe, that's super. And I understand everybody's got to make a buck. I agree with that. But you don't have to keep bilking people time after time after time after time. And I've seen this.
That's well said, because it's not right. It's not right to do that to folks.
It certainly isn't. Like I worked with a couple of people on exposing John Edwards, Von Prague. We caught them faking. We caught them basically with their, and this is a metaphor, with their hands in people's pockets. And
heartbreaking for the victims.
Oh, my Lord, it certainly is. It certainly is. I look at psychic phenomena today like in the old days of the sideshows and the gypsies in caravans. Nothing has changed, just the names and the people. Same old.
But along with some of that, there's some really honest people that have had near-death experiences or some strange paranormal encounters that want to share, and they get mixed in with a dishonest lot. So, that's the tragedy of it.
All right, you and I have to take our final break. Please stand by, Laura, and X Zone Nation, if you'd like to find out more about Laura, her books, and everything that she does, trying to get a very important message across in a credible way, visit her website, LuraKetch.com. That's LuraKetch. No, KETCH.com. Now, let's try that again. LuraKetch.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from the Broadcast Center here in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. Now, if you'd like to send me your comments, pro, con, or indifferent, I'm kind of getting used to the con ones. Send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. That's xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. And two of the interviews I did last week that were classified as purely bullshit are Carol Noonan and Larry Porter. And you can go to, let me see, just channel them. Get it? Channel. Actually, just Google them. Larry Porter or Carol Noonan, X Zone Radio TV show. And you'll see why. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
How would your life change if you could develop the business and personal skills that you need in order to make more money? Do you want to learn how to achieve your big life goals faster? Then go to findhiddenmoney.com and get the Goal for It online course. The course teaches you how you can set and achieve your biggest goals while completely overcoming the roadblocks to your goals so that you can realize your dreams and imagine more success. Go to findhiddenmoney.com.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide. Audience. If you have seen a UFO, had a close encounter, seen a ghost, Bigfoot, lake monster, or a story that you would like to share or have investigated, contact me, Rob McConnell, by sending me your email to xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, or you can call toll-free 1-800-610-7035, extension 143, and on Skype, X-Zone Radio TV. For more information on the X-Zone Radio TV show with yours truly, Rob McConnell, visit www.xzoneradiotv.com or www.xzonetvchannel.com or simultv.com and xzbn.net. Until next we meet here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, always remember, X-Zone Nation, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart in the light.
Memorable dynamic presentations are a not-so-secret weapon in the business world. Do you have a powerful message that must be shared, but you haven't found a way to deliver that message? Do you want to be known as a top public speaker who gets amazing results? Are you ready to create and deliver your powerful message? Thomas Hides can help you create and deliver your speech to get the results you desire. Visit iconquality.com.
X-Zone Nation, our guest this hour is Lura Ketchledge, and the website is www.luraketch.com. That's LURAKETCH.com. Tell us about your Death Saga book series, your Near-Death Saga book series.
Well, I never thought to be an author. I had a dream of a story, and I thought this is a great way to express all the paranormal activity and things that I learned through my near-death experience. So I channeled it into a paranormal romance with a murder mystery. And I have characters that have had near-death experiences and returned with psychic abilities.
So it
was a lot of fun.
Did you return with psychic abilities?
I would say that everybody's got a pinch of psychic. I don't think anybody's got a full cup. But I've had some strange experiences after the near-death experience that I had a lot of trouble. I grappled with it a lot of times. And I'm 60 years old, Rob. I didn't talk about my NDE till I was 50, so I kept silent 30 years.
Why?
I didn't want to be labeled as a wackadoo or be disbelieved or have to go into detail about it. I just felt, kind kind of like embarrassed, and I just didn't want to be labeled a freak.
But what changed?
Well, you know what is great about getting older, Rob? That, you know, when you're embarrassed and self-conscious in your 20s and 30s and you want to be cool and you want to look great, when you're 50, you've kind of given all that up and you're just who you are. And I wrote the book series and talked to a publisher, and he said, well, what did you base it on? And I was honest. I said, my own near-death experience. And he said, lady, you're on the wrong side of 50. You had a horse instead of a husband, and you haven't published anything. So I decided to be candid and, you know, and upfront and honest. And it's been a great experience. It's been cathartic, and I've been getting a lot of support from people. So I don't feel so isolated in my near-death experience anymore.
How do you deal with skepticism? Because, like I was saying earlier, that there is no scientific proof or medical proof that the near-death experience is, in fact, real. Many doctors, many neurologists, many scientists believe it's because of the lack of oxygen or oxygen deprivation to the mind, the brain, that gives the illusion of a near-death experience. You yourself having had one where these scientists and doctors haven't, how do you deal with that?
Well, I'm not into recruiting anybody or convincing anybody. I have a good friend that just doesn't believe it's possible. She thinks it's the oxygen deprivation.
Yeah.
And I said, you know, in 100 years, we'll both be dead, and I'll be on the other side saying, I told you so. So I take a little humor in it, but I don't think that if you haven't had one, you're naturally skeptic. It's healthy to be a skeptic. But when you've had one, there's no getting around it.
You know, you said when you're both 100 years from now, when you're both on the other side, you'd say to her, I told you so. But what happens if the fact or the supposition that there is another side is nothing but a hypothesis that we humans have developed in order to justify life and death?
Well, you know what? Nobody gets out of this world alive, and if there's no
That's
afterlife, we'll all find out eventually, or won't.
But, you know, this afterlife belief now, how much of it is real and how much of it is put on by people who are seeing it as a cash cow industry?
That's a really good thing. I don't give readings or anything like that. You know, if people want to read my books, and, you know, my beliefs are in there.
Sure.
But, yeah, I'm not there to capitalize on grief-stricken people to try to give them support or anything like that.
No, I understand that. I understand that. Maybe I should rephrase my question. How do we know it's real and that people are not just picking up on the new age wave where there's a lot of wackadoodle stuff going on that people are paying money for because they need something to believe. They have the desire to believe. So how do we justify, or how do we look at something like near-death experiences and say it is real? Or is it just a matter of personal belief?
Well, if you haven't experienced one or an experienced an event, it's really going to be a belief. For me, it's a known. And to anybody that knows me, I'm just an average person. I didn't go to Harvard, but I could not have made this stuff up. I'm not that smart and creative.
Let me see here. Near-Death Saga, being part of the horse world all your life. Lura incorporated it into her books, Near-Death Connection, Throwaway Horses, Reincarnation Connection. She also wrote, produced, and directed an indie movie titled Another Apocalyptic Zombie Movie. That, to me, shows me that you are very creative.
Oh, you're kind. Well, you know, I wasn't creative before the near-death experience. I'm dyslexic. I flunked out of nursing school and college, both.
But weren't you only 19?
I don't know what.
But weren't you only 19 when you had your near-death experience?
Yes.
That's very young.
Yeah, it is. I got, I guess, a creativity a bonus afterwards. I don't know. I don't know where it comes from. I didn't have any trouble writing, producing, and directing the movie. I made a comedy. I wanted to do something fun, and it wasn't a big stretch mentally for me. But I'm also the person that couldn't put the time on their VCR or learn a computer very easily. So I don't know.
You know, I could give you justifiable answers for both of those examples, a computer and a VCR. I know many people. You know, my mom and dad, for example, they don't know how to. I had to program their VCR for them because in their age and their time, it wasn't necessary. So, do we take the necessity of the time and look at it to see how it actually validates the experience?
That's a good question. I enjoy, having a creative streak.
Sure.
I like painting, writing articles, and it's also an outlet for some of the paranormal occurrences. And it's also something great to do. I hope that people could listen to my story, what happened to me, and feel some comforted that we are reunited with loved ones.
You said paranormal. You said paranormal experiences. Your own paranormal experiences, or the paranormal experiences of others?
Mine.
And what kind of paranormal experiences have you had?
Well, I didn't take it too bravely. After I had a friend that passed away, I had a visitation of an orb, and then quite a few times, after I would have an elderly relative, there would be floating in through my room in the evening. When I was wide awake, I would see an orb. First time I got up and ran screaming through the house like a mental patient. Over time, I became more relaxed about it. And as I've read that it's not uncommon with people that have had near-death experiences to see orbs at some point in their lives.
Have you had any other experiences?
Yes, I have. But can I share with you something? To validate the orbs and the paranormal activity in my house that I experienced, I had 5 different teams of paranormal researchers come to my home.
All right. Now, let me ask you a question at this point. You said you had 5 different teams of paranormal investigators. Did you have any accredited scientists in there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and all 5 teams had positive findings, and I submitted them to my ghost story when I was on the TV show and
all
it
right.
aired.
Okay, and I'm talking about real accredited scientists here. I'm not talking about paranormal groups because I don't give them any credit whatsoever.
Oh, these, I haven't. So you're right. I didn't get a researcher.
Okay.
I got a paranormal investigation team that did video and audio.
Okay.
So I didn't know anybody that did. That was a real doctor. But wouldn't that be cool to do it in the future?
Well, yeah. And this is what I have a problem with is all of these paranormal teams, like I said, I don't give them any credibility whatsoever because they're not scientists. Very few of them have any idea on how to properly collect evidence, how to use, how to photograph, how to use audio equipment. And it's very easy to pick up cross-channel interference if you don't know what you're doing. And you can, dust does flare in video lenses and so on. So unless there's a credible member of the scientific community there who takes supervision and is there when these events happen, I have a problem with anything that these paranormal groups come up with because the ones that I have met, and I've met quite a few over the years, are very sensationalistic. They don't do this full time. But it seems that they all want to prove something. And when it comes to the legitimacy of the paranormal event, they don't have the Bill of Rights to do it. We'll be back on the other side of this commercial break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Niagara, Ontario, Canada. X Zone at xzoneradiotv.com is my email address. And tell me, are you a believer or a skeptic? Send me your email. Love to hear from you. We'll be right back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
In the mid-1990s, I was approached by a young woman who believed she'd been abducted by alien creatures. In conversations, I began a journey that took me not into the world of interstellar travel, but back through time into past lives. Under hypnotic regression administered by a professional rather than describing abduction, Jenny, as she is called, begins to tell a tale of horror in 19th century London. Her unbelievable past life seems to connect with Jack the Ripper and other monsters of the past. Throughout the session, Jenny provides a rich detail of her past lives that links some of the most horrific killers in history to one another. Using the resources of a university library in the pre-internet's day, I was able to verify some of Jenny's claims. She has knowledge that wasn't readily available to a suburban housewife. Does this prove the reality of her tales? Conversations attempts to answer that and other provocative questions. Conversations is available at Amazon.com.
Mission Evolution is dedicated to the well-being of the planet and animals, as well as the evolution of humankind. One major factor threatening all three is increasing toxicity. Heavy metals and other environmental toxins are poisoning our bodies, deteriorating our brains, blocking our spiritual connection, and shortening our lives. Yet these poisons are extremely difficult to remove. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, and I recently became aware of a product created from the marriage of nature and nanotechnology called Vitality. It's formulated from zoolite, whose crystalline structure binds toxins, gently carrying them out of the body. The light is only as clear as the window through which it shines. Clear your body, shine your light into the world. Visit vitalityhappens.com for a 20% discount. Enter code PATHHOME.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we went to the commercial break, we were talking about two of the guests I had on last week, Larry Porter and Carol Noonan. Well, if you haven't had the opportunity of listening to the shows, I'll just give you a little bit of an insight. Larry Porter claims to cure people of everything from cancer to COVID-19. Charlatan. He charges, $369 for 3 sessions, 3 hours, whatever. He charges for this. And I basically asked him questions about how he did it, what it was he did, and he basically said, I don't know. I asked him why he doesn't go into the hospital and cure people. He says he doesn't know. And I said, why don't you know? He said, well, because my spirit guides direct him. And I said, well, who are your spirit guides? And he says, I don't know. That's case number 1. Case number 2, Carol Noonan. That was a real interesting one. She claims to be a UFO experiencer, UFO abductee, a star seed from the Pleiades. She's a Pleiade channel. And the list went on and on and on. And you know what? I am saying to myself, what is the world coming to? Like, why do people believe this crap? Are people that desperate that they don't have the ability to add 1 and 1 and come up with 2? Somehow they come up with 1 and 1 equals a miracle. It makes no sense to me.
Well, Rob, there's no magic. There's very few miracles.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's just very, very sad that people are duped and hoodwinked into thinking that the paranormal or there's somebody that has, their spirit guide doing stuff. It's kind of tragic. I think that when people do have, paranormal encounters, they're very, very random, and there's no formula to it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I believe I have been blessed by my job. Over the years, doing this show 5 nights a week, 4 shows a night, I've interviewed well over 5,000 different guests. Some of the top minds of the world, some of the dumbest dog doo-doo brains in the world. People looking for Bigfoot, people looking for ghosts, people who are self-proclaimed exorcists. Now, there's a bunch of wackadoodles to talk about one night.
I don't believe in demons or possession or evil, not at all.
How did you were saying that your grandfather, I believe, was a minister or a pastor?
Yes.
How did your experience affect your core belief?
Well, I've been, a Presbyterian all my life, and I believe in Judeo-Christian ethics and that sort of thing.
So do I.
But I never was a big Bible thumper. But after I had my near-death experience, I think that it's you couldn't put it in a religion to explain the divine, how wonderful and beautiful and all-encompassing it is. And I kind of felt like most religions were kind of man-made or man-explained, or, some of them were just kind of guessing what God's message is. And I believe when I did have my near-death experience, when I did make it to Source, I just felt wrapped in love and goodness, and there was no fear, and there was no terrible awful, and there was no hell. I think hell is what, we kind of do to each other.
Hell is here on earth.
In this world.
Yeah. You reap what you sow. If you sow kindness, love, and understanding, that's what comes back to you. I believe that the Bible was written in a time when the sunrise was a marvel, an eclipse was a marvel. People did not have the knowledge that we had. And like the people who are so engrossed in the paranormal these days, who are looking for answers, seeking the truth, that in order to justify what they can't understand, they try their very best to rationalize the events. And I think this is what happened in the Bible. Like, we know there wasn't a global flood. We know that, well, once again, this is a toss-up. That the events of Genesis, based on what we know today, did not happen in 6 days. But once again, if they did happen as depicted in Genesis, nowhere in Genesis does it say how long a day was. So, there's two sides to every coin. But I think that the quest for knowledge, the quest for mankind to have the ability to understand and give reason to events that he doesn't understand, can be found in the Bible. And that very same line of logic, in my opinion, lies today with people and their quest of experience and knowledge when it comes to the paranormal.
Well, I think there's a really good, healthy interest in the paranormal, and I think that's great. And learning about near-death experience, you just have to navigate those waters carefully, because there are frauds or misguided people.
But
it's like everything, enter with caution.
But what should people, based on your expertise, based on your own experience, based on the fact that I believe you're a very credible person who is doing a lot to help get a very important message across to those who need to hear it. How would you suggest, or how would you guide people listening tonight on who to avoid and what some of the red flags are?
One of the biggest red flags is if they're asking for money, for you to shell out money, turn the other way. That's the biggest red flag. And, you know, you just have to sift through people. There's some wonderful, incredible people that are talking about their near-death experiences, and, you know, and they put it in a book. And I think that's great. Read it. Maybe you'll get something out of it. Maybe you'll discard it. But when somebody's, promising miracles, promising that they can connect with your deceased child or husband, you know, walk the other way, because, you know, you just can't. I've had remarkable experiences in my life, but they've been random, uncontrolled, and, you know, I haven't gotten great messages. You know, no one said, hey, don't marry that guy or invest in AT&T. I mean, it just doesn't happen that way.
Yeah, sure.
So if there's a money factor, beware. That is my biggest advice.
Buyer beware. So what's next for you, my dear?
Well, I'm writing a fourth book. Thank you for asking. And I'm doing interviews with authors and celebrities that have had near-death experiences. And I'm thinking about writing a book about the various types of near-death experience and other experiencers.
Well,
that's
are there
ways away.
Are there different types of near-death experiences, or are I didn't know that? Oh, really?
Yes, I've interviewed Dr. Raymond Moody, and he was explaining different types of near-death experiences, and also shared near-death experiences. You know, a shared death experience of, I have to get my words right, of you being with someone who is passing and being able to experience their transition.
But that's not a near-death experience. That's death.
It's a shared death experience.
Oh, a shared death experience.
Yes.
Huh. All right, listen, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a great pleasure. To you and yours, take care of each other. Stay well, stay safe, and don't forget to keep social distancing and continued success.
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Rob. It's a wonderful show.
Thank you very much, Laura. Take care, dear. All right, Exo Nation, there you have it. Near-death experiences. Are you a skeptic or are you a believer? Send me an email, exxon@exxonradiotv.com. I'd love to hear from you, pro or con. If you've had a near-death experience that you'd like to share with the members of the Exo Nation, or if you have a story of any kind that you would like to share with the Exo Nation, but you'll have to put up with my scrutiny. I know that's hard for 99.9% of the people out there who claim to be experts or have had these experiences. They love to say they've had the experience, but they don't like to have their feet held to the fire and the hard questions. They'll go on these podcasts where everybody is kissy, kissy, huggy, huggy, hold hands, and we'll all sing Kumbaya. I call those shows sheer bullshit. That's what they are. It doesn't take anybody with a brain to do a podcast. It doesn't take anybody with a brain to take their little video camera and do selfies of them doing these paranormal investigations. You've got a story, and you can prove it, and you can hold your own with me. Send me an email, exxon@exxonradiotv.com. Now I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue investigating the real world of the paranormal and the real world of parapsychology. I nearly said parascience. Parapsychology. Here in the X-Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. Email exxon@exxonradiotv.com. We'll be back after this break. Don't go away.